everybody, it's Vertical Sandwich, and welcome back to Book Reviews. So, across from me in a chair, the world's sleepiest dog slept through 3 book reviews, and now she's up. So, there may be dog interference in this video. I don't know. But if there is, there is. Like, she seems to be interested in what's going on. She's also right in my line of sight. She's right there. Like, just being a dog. So, today we have this. We're out of Hugo Award winners, so we have this. This is Jeff VanderMeer's Annihilation, the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy. Every book in the Southern Reach trilogy was released in the same year because Jeff VanderMeer is creepy. Jeff VanderMeer, you're creepy. You're creepy. Now, that being said, there was a 2018 movie based on this book. I actually took the 3rd book of this trilogy to a doctor's appointment and was talking to my doctor about it, and he's like, "Oh, that sounds like the movie Annihilation." And I was like, oh yeah, this is the 3rd book in the series. The series is amazing. It is. It's amazing. It's an amazing series. He told me about the ending of the movie because I asked him to, because I have not seen the movie, and so I know it diverges that way. But let's read the back blurb for a minute. This won the Nebula Award in 2014. None of the other books were nominated because they couldn't be, because this won the award in the year that all 3 books were released. Area X has been cut off from the rest of the world for decades. Nature has reclaimed the last vestiges of human civilization. The first expedition returned with reports of a pristine, Edenic landscape. The second expedition ended in mass suicide. The third in a hail of gunfire as its members turned on one another. The members of the 11th expedition returned as shadows of their former selves, and within weeks all had died of cancer. In Annihilation, the first volume of Jeff VanderMeer's Southern Reach trilogy, we joined the 12th expedition. The group is made up of 4 women, an anthropologist, a surveyor, a psychologist, the de facto leader, and our narrator, a biologist. Their mission is to map the terrain, record all observations of their surroundings and of one another, and above all, avoid being contaminated by Area X itself. They arrive expecting the unexpected, and Area X delivers, but it's the surprises that came across the border with them, and the secrets the expedition members are keeping from one another that change everything. It's actually not. It's actually not the secrets they're keeping from one another that change everything. What changes everything is that this is a horror novel. Like, this is just a creepy horror novel. And one of the things about it is, so there's this area, and it's like fogged in. You can't see into it. Like, you can take, I guess you can take pictures from above, I think, and that's fine. But, like, there's, like, this wall, and you can't go through the wall. There's a gate, and the trip through the gate is made under hypnosis because it's horrifically traumatic. It's a very strange trip to make. And once you're inside, there's stuff going on, like, just stuff. There's just very strange things. And the people who've gone in, at least the ones lately, they come out, they have no memory kind of how they of journeying out, or how they got out, and then they die of an incredibly aggressive cancer. And so the people going in are, like, they don't really know what kind to expect. But there seems to be a very mind-bending kind of not reality to this place. And so they get in there, and things just start kind of happening in weird ways. They find this tower. Like, one of them, like, the biologist, I think, thinks thinks of it as a tower, and everybody else thinks of it as a tunnel because it goes down into the ground. And there are words written across the walls in plants, like bioluminescent plants. And yeah, it just gets, like, super weird. And the biologist actually, like, touches one of the plants and inhales some of the pollen, and it starts changing. Right? So that's what we're going to read, is that has happened. They've investigated this tower. In the morning, I woke with my senses heightened, so that even the rough brown bark of the pines or the ordinary lunging swoop of a woodpecker came to me as a kind of minor revelation. The lingering fatigue from the 4-day hike to base camp had left me. Was this some side effect of the spores, or just the results of a good night's sleep? I felt so refreshed that I didn't really care. But my reverie was soon tempered by disastrous news. The anthropologist was gone, her tent empty of her personal effects. Worse, in my view, the psychologist seemed shaken, as if she hadn't slept. She was squinting oddly, her hair more windblown than usual. I noticed dirt caked on the sides of her boots. She was favoring her right side, as if she had been injured. "Where is the anthropologist?" the surveyor demanded, while I hung back, trying to make my own sense of it. "What have you done with the anthropologist?" was my unspoken question, which I knew was unfair. The psychologist was no different than she had been before. That I knew the secret to her magician's show did not necessarily mean she was a threat. The psychologist stepped into our rising panic with a strange assertion. "I talked to her late last night. What she saw in that structure unnerved her to the point that she did not want to continue with this expedition. She had started back to the border to await extraction. She took a partial report with her so that our superiors will know our progress." The psychologist's habit of allowing a slim smile to cross her face at inappropriate times made me want to slap her. "But she left her gear, her gun, too," the surveyor said. "She took only what she needed, so we would have more, including an extra gun." "Do you think we need an extra gun?" I asked the psychologist. I was truly curious. In some ways, I found the psychologist as fascinating as the tower. Her motivations, her reasons. Why not to resort to hypnosis now? Perhaps even with our underlying conditioning, some things are not suggestible, or fade with repetition. Or she lacked the stamina for it after the events of the night before. "I think we don't know what we need," the psychologist said. "But we definitely do not need the anthropologist here if she wasn't able to do her job." The surveyor and I stared at the psychologist. The surveyor's arms were crossed. We had been trained to keep a close watch on our colleagues for signs of sudden mental stress or dysfunction. She was probably thinking what I was thinking. We had a choice now. We could accept the psychologist's explanation for the anthropologist's disappearance, or reject it. If we rejected it, then we were saying that the psychologist had lied to us, and therefore also rejecting her authority at a critical time. And if we tried to follow the trail back home, hoping to catch up with the anthropologist to verify the psychologist's story, would we have the will to return to base camp afterwards? "We should continue with our plan," the psychologist said. "We should investigate the tower." The word tower in this context felt like a blatant plea for my loyalty. Still, the surveyor wavered, as if fighting the psychologist's suggestion from the night before. This alarmed me in another way. I was not going to leave Area X before investigating the tower. The fact was ingrained in every part of me, and in that context, I could not bear to think of losing another member of the team so soon, leaving me alone with the psychologist. Not when I was unsure of her, and not when I still had no idea of the effects of my exposures to the spores. "She's right," I said. "We should continue with the mission. We can make do without the anthropologist." But my pointed stare to the surveyor made it clear to both of them that we should revisit the issue of the anthropologist later. The surveyor gave a surly nod and looked away. An audible sigh of either relief or exhaustion came from the psychologist. "That's settled then," she said, and brushed past the surveyor to start making breakfast. The anthropologist had always made breakfast before. Like, it just has that kind of creepy things left unspoken, like what's the truth, what's going on. The psychologist is hypnotizing these people, and somehow the spores have made the biologist immune, is kind of what's going on here. And so then when things start to fall apart, and like hypnosis isn't working anymore, and then the biologist starts realizing that what they're seeing is what this hypnotic suggestion is telling them to see, and it's not what's really there, and she's seeing what's really there. But then she can't tell people because they'll think she's going mad, because that's what they're watching out for, because people have committed suicide and murdered each other. So there becomes this huge... So I guess the thing on the back is true, that it's all about the doubts that they have about one another. But then things start happening, like crazy, the creepiest kind of Lovecraftian things you can't see that are only described by their movements through the brush and noises, and kind of like in the middle of the night, and then like brief glimpses of them that make your imagination run wild, and then like it just stuff. Like, it's horrifying. Like, what goes on in Area X is kind of like slightly off of set. It's like, have you ever felt like somebody was watching you or saw a movement out of the corner of your eye and like turned and there was nothing there, but you could have swore there was something there, but there's nothing there? That's what Area X is like all the time. Like, it's constantly like that. Like, it's just constantly using small things to erode your sense of sanity. And so, like that, there's a quote in the back that says, "This is original and beautiful, maddening and magnificent," and it is. I suggested it to a friend of mine who's like a huge fan of horror, and I was just like talking about it, and I was like, "It's a horror novel." Like, I know science fiction, fantasy, sure, that's what these awards are given for, but this is a horror novel. This is a Bram Stoker Award candidate right here. It's a horror novel. It's a super, super creepy story. And then, like I said, the biologist starts to get changed and, like, doesn't trust the psychologist, and then the surveyor just doesn't know what's going on, and then they, like, find out what happened to the anthropologist, and, like, it's not, like, they kind of get a picture of what's, and then the psychologist disappears, and, like, they have no way to know what's going on there, and then, like, you end up with this kind of, like, end of the movie The Thing, where, like, the two people are sitting there, and, like, they're staring at each other, and they just know that one of them could be the monster. Like, it's like, there's that kind of dynamic going on for a while, and then just, I mean, like, this whole book just kind of, like, throws you in this place where, like, you don't know what's going on, but you know that it's dangerous and it's insane and it's not of this world, and, like, it just kind of gets creepier and creepier until, like, and you just know that there's not, these people have signed up for essentially a suicide mission. That, like, only a few people have ever come out and survived, and I think they're all from, like, I think it's only one guy, actually. I think there's only one guy who's still around from the first mission in this area. But you don't even find that out until later. You don't even find that out until, like, later in the series. So, like, so they know that, like, everybody else who has done this has, like, essentially been either replaced by something that looks like them but doesn't quite have their memories, or something has happened to their minds where their picture of reality isn't the same as everybody else's. And, yeah. And then they're in that place. So inevitably their fate will probably be something along that line. But they don't know how that happens. They don't know if, like, the people who are there, like, people who go in, they don't know if they get, like, eaten by doppelgangers and replaced, or, like, if, you know, brain parasites crawl into their brain, or, like, and then, like, I mean, it doesn't, yeah, like, yeah. It's just this gigantic kind of fright fest. Like, it's seriously, the tension in this book is amazing, the creepy factor is through the roof, and, like, boom, it's just great. It's just a great book. It's just so original and wonderful, and, like, the creepiness stuff is so super creepy, and, like, Jeff VanderMeer does not care about your questions. Like, you have questions about what's going on, Jeff VanderMeer does not care. Like, people don't have answers. That's the point. So you just go like, yeah, but what about that thing in the brush? And he's just like, yeah, it's a thing. Like, you know what they know. And you're just like, yeah, but that's nothing. It's terrifying. It's terrifying putting yourself in the seat of somebody who is going somewhere where they don't know what horrors await them, and then strange things start happening. Like, it's a classic horror setup, and it's just going to be great. It's just great. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. So, when we come back, we will be tackling Authority, the second book in the Southern Reach trilogy. And I'll see you guys for that. Bye.